Hey y'all, so right up front, I just want to give a little warning about the content of this one. MDZS is all about the court of public opinion and how fast that can change, and how hateful the world can turn in an instant. The way people talk about other people can be so cruel and have such insane consequences. The earlier volumes have had these themes of racism, homophobia, talk of genocide, but here in Volume 4 is where it all comes to a head. And in today's political climate, yeah. Even I had a hard time rereading this one. And I've known what happens for like the last 6 years. Also, this one's got the major character death tag in it, so be ready for that.
This system will assist with additional warnings as they pop up in the story.
Thanks for that. I feel like I don't appreciate my system enough for all you do.
About time. Hosts should strive to be more grateful moving forward.
Literally, I'm just trying to have a nice moment here, and you know what? I take it back.
Points deducted.
I hate you. Anyways, welcome back to my personal escape from all the things that make me want to crawl under a rock in real life. It's a little, ironic in this one, but I promise it's not all doom and gloom. Like a radish pushing through the cold dirt, we'll make the best out of all of it. This is The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation by MXTX, Volume 4. Okay, let's do this. We start off in the flashback arc. Some time has passed after the end of the Sunshot campaign. The war's been won, but the people are still mad. When Rohan was killed quickly, and so were his sons, and even Wen Julio. So people start persecuting the core clan, and then when they run out, they persecute the outer clan and anyone with the last name Wen. It's spiraling out of control. Lanling Jin has been taking charge of a lot of matters. It seems to be their say whether people are guilty, but it's not just them. Qinghe still has a lot of fight in them, and they've been coining the term Wen Dog. It's a total slur for anyone associating with or sympathizing with the former Qishan Wen clan. The two Jades of Lan were walking through Carp Tower to yet another grand banquet hosted by the Jin clan to pat themselves on the back. Lanjan doesn't usually attend these things, but he wanted to talk to his brother. He wants to bring Wei Ying back to the cloud recesses, but he knows he's not willing. Repression does shit to people, man, okay? Lanjan wants to lock Wei Ying away if it keeps him safe, just like their father did to their mother, and it scares him. Lan Zichen wants to help his little brother, but unfortunately, they've arrived at the banquet hall and there's a lot of politicking to be done. Jin Guanyao is here, of course. He's been rising up the ranks as Jin Guanshan's aide, although he still doesn't get much respect. He's the one organizing and solving problems, all the while getting basically none of the credit. Su Shi is here. If you don't remember him, I don't blame you. Su Shi hasn't really been mentioned since Volume 1, I think. He went on the mission to deal with the Waterborne Abyss with the gang during the Cloud Recesses arc. He's the one who stupidly threw his sword into the water and then had to be rescued. His whole thing was being super jealous of Lanjan while being leagues less competent. Anyways, since the last time we saw him, he left Gusu Lan, and with a little help from a certain someone in the Jin sect, founded his own minor sect, the Moling Su sect. Jin Zishun is here, Jin Zishuan's shitty, annoying cousin. As soon as he sees the twin Jades of Lan, he comes over with a jar of liquor. Jin Zishun knows that Gusu Lan prohibits the consumption of alcohol, but he also knows that the Lans have to be polite all the time. He's trying to use courtesy to force them into a corner, literally just to be a dick. And it seems like Lan Zichen might actually drink it just to get him to go away. But then a Black Knight swoops in at the last second. I first heard of a Black Knight because of the scene in Modao. It's a trope I've mostly seen in Chinese or Korean media, where someone takes a drink for somebody else. And I will always Black Knight for my friends. What can I say? South Korea is the drunkest nation per capita. And I'm out here representing. It's kind of funny. When it comes to drinking, I feel like the Wang Xian love child. I will always be the first one drunk. It literally takes one shot. Half a glass of wine and I'm feeling it, you know? But let me tell you, I can stay in that fun zone between tipsy and passed out on the bathroom floor for a lot of drinks. Hence why I'm the resident Black Knight. Ladies? Okay, anyways. Wei Ying is here. He sees Jin Zishun harassing the Lan brothers and takes Lan Xichen's drink in one gulp. He's mad. For once, he practically ignores Lanjan in front of him. He's here because he's got beef with Jin Zixun. So, after the fall of the Wen sect, the remaining leaders were shoving all their responsibilities away, trying to run away from accountability. And one of those victims was Wen Ning. He was thrown a bunch of the outer disciples and family members, and just told to handle it. He was trying to escort them out of the capital when his group was ambushed and captured by Jin Zixun and his men. Wen Qing had been trying to find him, but no one in the Jin sect would tell her anything. To them, Wen Ning and the rest were all just Wen dogs. They can't keep track of every single dog rounded up. They don't even know where they are, let alone how they're treated. But eventually, she found out it must have been Jin Zixun in charge of their capture. So, she turned to probably the only person who would help her, Wei Ying. At this point, Wei Ying is still part of Yunmengjiang and has access to these events, so he comes to confront him. And by this time, Wei Ying has caused a pretty big scene. Jin Guanshan and Jin Guanyao are both there, but Jiang Cheng, notably, is not. No one from the Jiang clan is here. Wei Ying, once again, wasn't carrying a sword.
Trigger phrase detected. Beginning system countdown to big reveal. Ba. Resuming host in 3, 2, 1.
And so, no one could challenge him to a duel without seeming cowardly for attacking an unarmed man, or without giving Wei Ying full permission to summon an army of the dead. They all go back and forth for a while, arguing about the Wens, and whether the last name Wen should be enough to declare these people criminals and deserving of punishment. Jin Zixun is such a weasel, oh my god. I wanted to punch him so bad during this part. He claims total ignorance of the entire situation until Wei Ying's like, I'll give you a count of 3 to tell me before I start calling corpses into Carp Tower. This scene is so awesome in The Untamed. Zhao Zhan counting really did something to me. Oh, it's got me giggling, even just thinking about it.
This system has no words.
The Jin clan caves when Ning and his whole group are being held at a camp alongside Jiangqing Path. Wei Ying leaves as soon as he hears and goes to find Wen Qing. Lan Zhan and Lan Zichen watch him go. Zichen really sees how much Wei Ying has changed, and Lan Zhan still doesn't know what to do. The camp is just as bad as you think it'd be. A lot of so-called Wen dogs they have captured aren't even cultivators. Wen Qing finds a lot of relatives, like Granny, fourth uncle, and worst of all, a toddler, Wen Yuan, Yuan. But there's no sign of Wen Ning. The Jin cultivators running the place are acting shifty and tight-lipped, but the other Wens there direct Wei Ying to a hut by a cliff where they deal out punishments. People don't come back from there. Ugh, y'all, this part sucks! Especially as a certified Wen Ning stan. The first time I read this part all those years ago, I had to take a break for a while. I may have also called my friend and cried a bit, but that's no one's business. Okay, I just gotta rip the band-aid off so we can get away from here. Wen Ning is dead. They find his corpse, among others, at the bottom of a cliff, brutalized. The guards claim he fell by accident, but Wei Ying doesn't believe it for a second. No one does. In a fit of rage, Wei Ying raises Wen Ning and the others and orders them to kill their murderers in the same way done to them. The guards are bludgeoned to death. Poor Wen Qing. It's awful seeing her gentle, sweet, timid brother like this. And Wen Ning is a particularly fierce corpse. And it's because he was so timid in life. The resentment built up even when he didn't know it. Wen Qing is so distressed. And in the end, Wei Ying calms her down by promising to reawaken Wen Ning's consciousness. A fierce corpse regaining their memories from life has never been done before, but Wei Ying has some ideas. Theoretically, it could be possible. Low-key though, Wei Ying is lying through his teeth. He has no idea if this is possible, but he's lived his whole life by the Jiang motto, attempt the impossible. So here goes nothing. After it all the guards at the Jiangqi Pass are dead. In The Untamed, Lan Zhan actually follows him out here. They have a super dramatic confrontation in the rain. It's actually one of the most iconic scenes in the drama, in my opinion. During the scene, Wei Ying says that if he's going to be killed for his actions, he'd rather it was Lan Zhan to do it. If he's going to die, he wants it to be Lan Zhan. But Lan Zhan can't. Absolutely he can't. And so, in the end, he steps aside. And Wei Ying leads the Wen remnants to the burial mounds to camp out. They have literally nowhere else to go. A little while after the incident at Qiangqi Pass, Jiang Cheng is summoned to Carp Tower along with the leaders from the other major sects. They're here to discuss Wei Wuxian. The rumor mill has been going crazy. Everyone heard about the massacre at Qiangqi Pass, but people are saying that they kept the worst of the worst there. Or they're saying that Wei Ying insulted Jiang Cheng and Yun Mengjiang during his confrontation with Jin Zixun, blatantly claiming to be above his brother and the sect leader. Luckily, Lan Zhan is there to shoot that one down. Ugh, most of what's discussed here sucks to read. Technically, what they're saying is kind of true. Wei Ying killed a lot of Jin cultivators, but no one wants to talk about what they were doing at that camp. It was cruel and unnecessary. Wasn't defending the defenseless, fighting injustice, what cultivators were supposed to do? I will say there's this one super badass moment here. Mian Mian is there. When people are disparaging Wei Ying's character, she stands up for him. He saved her, and she hasn't forgotten about it. People just scoff at her and call her like a floozy or whatever. So she stands up, tears off her outer robe, and defects from the Jin sect right then and there. We love a woman standing on business. But the conclusion is the same. Wei Ying needs to be put in his place. Jiang Cheng needs to go to the burial mounds. Wei Ying and the Wen remnants are building houses. It might not be the nicest place in the world, but Wei Ying managed to survive here for 3 months, and with all the corpses under his control, it's far less hostile. Jiang Cheng can see these people are functionally innocent. Most of them are older, with the exception of the toddler, who likes hanging off of his legs, and their cultivations are all low. But Jiang Cheng's thinking more about the optics of it all. He agreed these people don't deserve the treatment they've been getting, but there's nothing he can really do. The whole cultivation world is united in their hatred against the Wen sect. These people are innocent individually, but they are still linked with this giant evil entity. People aren't going to forget that. And everything Wei Ying does will come back to Yun Mengjiang. And Wei Ying knows it, okay? Since the incident, he hasn't been back to Lotus Pier, even though it's so close to Yiling. He was planning on staying in the burial mounds through all of this. But, the whole situation sucks. Wei Ying decides to show Jiang Cheng around a bit. He meets Granny and Ayuan. He sees a bunch of half-finished gadgets and such that Wei Ying has been working on, including his first prototypes for the spirit attraction flags and the Compass of Evil. And then they go see the Demon Quelling Cave, which... Okay, so Wei Ying knows people are afraid of him. People call him a demon, and this is where he sleeps. And being asleep is basically about as quelled as you can get, right? So, the Demon Quelling Cave. The fact that it's a perfect name for an evil lair is like a little inside joke. Wen Ning is inside the cave, totally wrapped up in talismans. Wei Ying tells him about the promises he made to Wen Qing and how he doesn't know if he can actually do it, but he owes it to her to give it his best try. Jiang Cheng owes a lot to the Wen siblings as well. It's just that he was unconscious for most of that time and doesn't know the extent. He doesn't get to know the siblings like Wei Ying did. It might seem really harsh that Jiang Cheng straight up tells Wei Ying to abandon them. To him, it's not worth it, but oh my gosh, once again, everything sucks.
And then there's all the stuff about his...
Spoilers! We'll get to that later. Jiang Cheng sounds harsh here, for sure, but it's not just about them. He has a sect to run. A sect that Wei Ying promised to run beside him, but Wei Ying isn't there. He's here. And Jiang Cheng is running everything by himself. All the politics and rumors, and Yun Mengjiang is still barely back on its feet. And that's not even mentioning the Yin Tiger Tally. All the major sects are afraid of that thing, and Wei Ying has been running amok in their eyes. If this keeps up, if they get more scared of him, they're going to do something drastic, and Jiang Cheng won't be able to stop it. He says it, Wei Wuxian, if you're determined to protect them, then I won't be able to protect you. And Wei Ying says the quiet part out loud. If they're going to go forward, Yun Mengjiang needs to cut all ties to Wei Wuxian. Okay, I need to stress that Wei Ying and Jiang Cheng still care about each other. They wouldn't be here if they didn't. But that whole conversation was a bit of a disaster, and both of them need to let out some steam. Plus, if they're going to convince the cultivation world, they need to duel for real, no holding back. So they duel. Wen Ning breaks Jiang Cheng's arm, but the sect leader's cultivation is strong, so it only takes a few weeks to heal. And Jiang Cheng manages to stab Wei Ying through with Sandu. But Wei Ying is very resilient. He can shove his guts back in and all of that. Plus, Wen Qing is right there to patch him up. By the next day, everyone in the cultivation world hears about Wei Wuxian defecting and their explosive duel. And from now on, no matter what Wei Ying does, his actions have nothing to do with the Jiang sect of Yunmeng. the burial mounds become kind of cozy. Wei Ying recovers, houses get built. Little Ayuan is a big fan of Wei Ying. He babysits for Granny or Wenqing. Ayuan calls him Jiangge and hangs off his legs when he walks around. And Wei Ying plays with the kid in his own special way, swinging him around or planting him in the dirt. Oh my god, I love Ayuan so much. He's the cutest! And if you want to feel your heart melt, look up clips from the Chinese audio drama. The voice actor for Wen Yuan is an actual literal toddler. It's so adorable. Also, the actor for Wei Ying in the audio drama is the same one they have voicing over Zhao Zhan in The Untamed. I think it's so interesting that they dub over actors in live-action dramas. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Wei Ying's fight with Jiang Cheng spread like wildfire, and with it, news of the evil demon patriarch of Ling and his spooky corpse henchmen. Wen Ning earned his nickname the Ghost General because of that. And Wei Ying starts getting some fan mail too. People who want to follow this supposed evil warlord start leaving gifts at the bottom of the mountain. Wei Ying makes some half-hearted displays accepting the gifts. They're poor, they'll take what they can get. And then just stops taking the main road to and from town. Wei Ying does have to go down to Yiling fairly often. They need to eat in the burial mounds after all. Wenqing sends him with an allowance and tells him to pick up radishes. Radishes are resilient and unpicky, so they can try and grow some in the burial mounds. It's just that Wei Ying doesn't really like radishes, so he buys potatoes instead, and Wenqing yells at him. Wei Ying takes Ayuan to town with him for these shopping trips, which is where we find our next scene. Wei Ying is haggling with a vendor over potatoes.
This system lights a candle for Wenqing.
And Ayuan gets bored and wanders off. Don't worry, Wei Ying notices pretty quick and goes to find him. And what a scene he finds! Suddenly, he heard the sound of a young child bursting into tears and hurried over to see. Not far away, nosy passerbys had crowded into a circle to gawk at something. They were whispering to themselves and pointing. When Wei Wuxian finally managed to push through the crowd, his eyes lit up. At the very center, surrounded by the crowd, was Lan Wenzhi. He was dressed entirely in white, with beach ends strapped to his back, and stood frozen in place. It was a rare sight to see him looking so helpless, not knowing what to do. Taking a closer look, Wei Wuxian almost fell over laughing. There was a child sitting on the ground, plopped right in front of Lan Wenzhi's feet. He was bawling, tears and snot rolling freely down his face. Lan Wenzhi couldn't leave, couldn't stay, couldn't reach out, couldn't say a word. His face was stern, like he was considering his options. The bystanders provided commentary as they peeled and snacked on melon seeds. What's going on? That itty-bitty bean is crying his heart out. Probably got scolded by his dad, someone says with conviction. At the suggestion of dad, Wei Wuxian sputtered a laugh from his hiding spot in the crowd. Lan Wenzhi immediately looked up and denied the claim. I am not his father. Wen Yuan didn't understand what anyone was talking about, but children always call for their loved ones when they're frightened, and so he sobbed and cried, Daddy, Daddy, wah! You hear that? I told you, he's the dad, a passerby declared immediately. Oh, poor boy, he's crying so hard. Oh, don't cry, baby, a passerby cooed at the child. Where's your mommy? Yeah, where's the mom? His dad doesn't care, so where's the mom? Lan Wenzhi was drowning in the wave of noise. His expression was growing odder by the second. Pity the man who was born the darling of the heavens. His every word and every action were the epitome of elegance. He was the role model of role models. Never once had he encountered such a situation. Never had he been forced to suffer the accusations of the masses. Wei Wuxian was laughing himself to death, but upon seeing that Wen Yuan was about to pass out from weeping, he had no choice but to step forward. Pretending to have just discovered the two of them, he exclaimed in surprise, Huh? Lanzhan? Lan Wenzhi's head shot up, and the two locked eyes. For whatever reason, Wei Wuxian's eyes dodged away for a moment. But at the sound of his voice, Wen Yuan instantly crawled to his feet and ran towards Wei Wuxian, trailing two streams of tears before clinging to his legs anew. Lan Wenzhi, he's your role model's role model. Your dream man's dream man. And he's about to serve exactly what you are. Okay, whatever. Don't worry, Ayuan, your mama's here. I kid you not. When Lanzhan asks him whose kid this is, Wei Ying tells him it's his. His exact words are that he birthed him from his own body. Congratulations, Lanzhan, you are a father now. He came to Yiling definitely not to just see Wei Ying, and got a little more than he bargained for. Well, since Lan Zhan is here and Yuan seems to like him, Wei Ying offers to take him out for lunch.
His treat.
Spoilers, Wei Ying doesn't pay for it. They walk through the market towards the restaurant, and Wei Ying is teasing Yuan about toys. This part's so iconic. Wei Ying's pointing at all these toys like, "Look, Yuan, aren't these nice? Which one do you like?" And when Yuan points some out, he goes, "I like those too," and then just walks away without buying them. Which makes Yuan sad, which prompts Lan Zhan to buy the toys for him, which earns him the Yuan assigned moniker of Rich Gaga. They get to the restaurant and Lan Zhan orders an array of spicy dishes for Wei Ying's preferences and a sweet soup for Yuan. This is the meal that Wei Wuxian mentions to the juniors during the Yi City arc in Volume 2. Yuan continues to be the cutest, sweetest little bean, and he's not used to this much food, especially food this good and sweet. So he keeps offering bites to Wei Ying. He wants to make sure that his young Gaga gets to eat good food. And he's playing with these paper butterflies that his new rich Gaga bought for him. And the butterflies are confessing their love to each other. It's like, I like you too. Lan Zhan scolds him for talking while eating, and little Yuan listens to him. God, I'm so obsessed with this scene. Yuan does his best to copy the prim and proper way that Lan Zhan is eating.
Maybe he is suited for the teachings of Gusu Lan.
Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's been a while since Lan Zhan and Wei Ying have really gotten to talk. Wei Ying tells him about all the people he's protecting, how they really are innocent, like Yuan. And Lan Zhan, in turn, updates him about the goings-on in the Cultivation world. Namely, a large wedding is being held at Carp Tower. Jin Zixuan got his shit together, and he and Jiang Yanli are set to be married. Ugh. You get to see more of their love story in The Untamed. Jin Zixuan plants a lotus garden at Carp Tower to give Yanli a little piece of Yunmeng in her new home. Like, he's wading through muddy ponds, golden brocade and all, just for her. Wei Ying is a bit sad that he wasn't able to hear the news directly from his siblings, but he's happy for his sister nonetheless. Unfortunately, good things can't last forever. A talisman alerts Wei Ying that something bad is happening at the burial mounds, and he has to rush out. There's a great panel in the manhwa from this scene where he's got Yuan tucked under his arm like a goddamn football. Wei Ying, as per usual, didn't bring his sword, Qi, and is planning to just sprint them back up the mountain, but Lan Zhan is there and offers to fly them all on Bichen. Wen Ning had broken out of the talismans, sealing him inside the demon quelling cave, and was running amok. There's a lot happening. Wei Ying has to deal with Wen Ning. He doesn't even have to ask. Lan Zhan immediately goes to protect the rest of the Wen remnants. Wei Ying tosses Yuan to Wen Qing just in time before Wen Ning tackles him into a tree. It's chaos, and it takes so many talismans and the combined melodies of Cheng Qing and Wan Ji, and Wen Ning is finally subdued. And not only subdued, he actually wakes up. Wei Ying's efforts finally paid off, and he's achieved the impossible. The Wen siblings are reunited at last. Sorry, I feel like I was totally rushing through that. But Wen Ning is back, and I'm happy for it. Wei Ying gives Wen Ning a rundown of what's been going on, how he's been dead and all that, but he gives the Wens some time to themselves. He takes Lan Zhan to the demon quelling cave. There's another feature in there that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's the blood pool. It's an ominous thing. Who knows how deep it is? Who knows how many corpses are in there? It used to be water, supposedly, but every day it smells more and more like blood. And it's absolutely teeming with resentment.
Wow, what a nice place you've got here.
The Wen remnants want to throw a dinner to celebrate Wei Ying and all he's done for them. They ask Lan Zhan to stay. He refuses. Wei Ying and Yuan decide to walk him out, and things turn a little sour. Lan Zhan also doesn't understand why Wei Ying is doing this. For once, he actually agrees with Zheng Cheng. This isn't sustainable. Something's going to happen and Wei Ying is going to lose the Wens. Lan Zhan is going to lose Wei Ying. But how could he possibly understand? Lan Zhan doesn't get it. For Wei Ying, this precarious single-plank bridge is his only way forward. Without demonic cultivation, there's no way he could protect the Wens, and he's in too deep now. He has been for a long time. There's no other choice.
Even more than anyone knows.
So Lan Zhan leaves, and Wei Ying is bummed. Yuan is bummed. But lucky for them, they have the Wen remnants there to cheer them up. They really did pull out all the stops, cooking, cracking open the wine, setting up all the lanterns. Up to this point, yeah, Wei Ying has been living here and helping these people, but there was a certain level of distance on both sides. Wei Ying has a pretty big reputation, but not tonight. Tonight, he's actually hanging out with everybody. Uncles are challenging him to drink, and everyone's having a good time. It's so nice. Ugh, it's too bad it can't last. News travels fast, as always. Less than a week, and everyone and their mothers have heard about the ghost general having a living consciousness. Everyone's more freaked out than ever. Wei Ying, on the other hand, is just happy to have the ultimate helper. Wen Ning is incredibly strong and doesn't need to eat or sleep, and so he gets put to work. And Wen Ning is still just as eager to please as before. It's never been easier to haul supplies up the mountain. Oh my gosh. One of my absolute favorite Wen Ning clips from The Untamed is the one where they're in town trying to sell radishes. Wei Ying tries to coach Wen Ning's sales pitch. Give it that sparkle, you know? Wen Ning is just the best. I love him so much. My perfect little guy. Wei Ying is chilling in Yiling while Wen Ning is running errands when we get the continuation of the last scene from Volume 3. As a quick recap, Wei Ying, now officially dubbed the Yiling Patriarch, is hanging around when a familiar figure approaches him. She pulls back her hooded cloak to expose fantastic red and gold robes. Jiang Yanli is getting married, and even though he can't attend the ceremony, she really wanted to show Wei Ying her wedding robes. Ah, my heart! And Jiang Cheng is there too. The brothers haven't seen each other since their duel, and they bicker a bit. Wei Ying's still a little bitter that Jiang Cheng didn't tell him about the wedding, and he had to hear about it from Lan Zhan, but Jiang Yanli steps in, ever the mediator. There has still yet to be a problem that a bowl of lotus and pork rib soup can't solve. She even offers a bowl to Wen Ning, and even though he can't eat it, he's so touched and accepts it. But the wedding and the robes aren't the only reason Jiang Yanli is here. She's pregnant, and she wants Wei Ying to pick the baby's courtesy name. The next generational name in the Jin sect is Ru, so Wei Ying picks Rulan, Jin Rulan. Jiang Cheng scoffs and complains about naming his nephew Lan, but Jiang Yanli totally calls him out. It was Jiang Cheng's idea to let Wei Ying name the baby. Okay, side note, I think the generational names are fun and interesting. MXTX doesn't really talk about them much, and we only really see it in the Jin sect, but still. I guess since the generational names are mostly just a status symbol, it makes sense why only Lanling Jin gives a shit. So, sect leader Man-Whore's generation was Guang, Jin Guangshan. And then the next generation is Zhi, Jin Zishuan and Jin Zishun. And now we're getting to the Ru generation with Jin Ling's name, Jin Rulan. It's interesting that when he recognized Meng Yao, Jin Guangshan named him Jin Guangyao. He gave him his own generational name, which I guess feels like a big honor, but it also feels like Jin Guangshan still didn't acknowledge Jin Guangyao as his son. Otherwise, wouldn't he have named him Xu? Just an observation. An extra side note, I actually have a generational name myself. Although I didn't think about it that way literally until I started reading a bunch of danmei. So in old school Korean culture, families have a family poem, and each generation has the next word in the poem in their names. Super traditionally, this is only for the boys, but my paternal grandfather wanted all his grandkids to have it. And our name is Kyun. So I'm Sun Kyun, my brother's Ho Kyun, one of my cousins is Hae Kyun, etc. Those are our middle names / Korean names. And not gonna lie, I didn't like it so much growing up, mostly because in America no one could figure out how to say it, but I've grown to appreciate having it. Although I did try to use it when I studied in Korea for a time, and people kept telling me that I sounded like an old man, so damn it. Anyways, back to the story. Eventually, it comes time to part ways. Wei Ying admires Jiang Yanli one last time, and he and Wen Ning head back up the mountain. Wen Ning still has his bowl of soup. He carries it carefully the whole way to give to Ah Yuan. Okay, let's do a little check on the rumor mill. There's talk of the major sects appointing a chief cultivator. Supposedly, the person would be elected by popular vote. But it still feels a little too close to the Wen sect dictatorship for a lot of people's comfort. In cheerier news, the Heir to the Jin sect, Jin Zixuan and his new wife had just had their first son. His 7th day celebration was so extravagant, and his 1-month celebration is right around the corner. The Jin sect has been going all out for it. But that's not the outrageous news. Have you heard? They invited Wei Wuxian, the Ling patriarch, to attend. Sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Meanwhile, Wei Ying is browsing the markets for some last-minute trinkets to bring to his sister. These won't be his main gift, of course. He had been working on that since the moment he was invited. He had handcrafted a Zheng-style clarity bell to bring to his beloved nephew. It was going to be perfect.
Flags have been raised.
Crazy, but it was actually Jin Zixuan who invited him, because he's a dutiful husband and knows that it would make his wife happy. Wen Ning travels with him through Jiangqi Pass to Lanling. Well, Jiangqi Pass was renamed after the incident with the labor camp, but no one can agree or even remember the new name, so it's still known as Jiangqi Pass.
Is host stalling because she knows what happens next?
No, I'm just including fun details from the story, okay? Besides, don't you think you sound a little too eager? What, nothing to say? Whatever, let's do this.
Content warnings for trypophobia and death.
There's an ambush waiting for them in Jiangqi Pass. It's Jin Zixuan. Someone had cursed him with, it's called 1,000 sores and 100 holes. If you have tryptophobia, it's exactly what you'd think it'd be. And I won't clarify any more than that, thank you very much. Jin Zixuan looks gross and ugly. Someone's cursed him. Jin Guangyao found him and said that the fastest way to remove the curse would be to kill the caster, so here he is. Wei Ying, of course, had nothing to do with this. He doesn't even remember who Jin Zixuan was before he jumped out, but Jin Zixuan doesn't care. Wei Ying doesn't have time for this nonsense. His sister and nephew are waiting for him in Lanling. He didn't bring a sword,
Liu.
but he did bring Wen Ning, and he's not afraid to use him. This, apparently, was not an acceptable answer for Jin Zixuan. Things are starting to escalate further. Wei Ying pulls out his flute, but in doing so, the box with the clarity bell flies out of his sleeve. Jin Zixuan catches it, sees Jin Ling's name engraved on it, and starts to make fun of Wei Ying. This, my friends, is what we call a point of no return. Jin Zixuan brought 100 cannon fodder lackeys. They are still no match for the Yiling Patriarch and his ghost general, though. But then, Jin Zixuan shows up. He saw his cousin and Jin Guangyao talking and got worried. Oh, you guys! I hate this scene. Wei Ying's first instinct is, oh, I've been tricked. The entire invitation was a lie. Even when it's clear that Jin Zixuan is only here to make sure Wei Ying makes it to Lanling, that seed of resentment is still there, and the demonic cultivation is only making it worse. Just my opinion, but that's why I think things go down the way they do. So, Jin Zixuan is trying to talk both sides down, but whichever side backs down first is the side that dies. Jin Zixuan is absolutely convinced that Wei Ying cursed him, and he's not willing to entertain any other suspects. And so, Wei Ying raises his flute once again. Jin Zixuan tries to block him, but Wei Ying pushes him aside, saying, "Don't get in my way. I won't lay a hand on you so long as you don't provoke me." But Jin Zixuan reaches for him again, and then... there wasn't a single moment where Wei Ying consciously wanted this to happen. And he really thought he had Wen Ning completely under control, but when he turns, Jin Zixuan has a clawed hand pierced straight through his chest. His last words, oh my god, this sucks! He uses his last words to tell Wei Ying that Jiang Yanli is still waiting for him.
Mission, Jin Ling's, Oops All Uncles, 50% completion.
That is so fucked up. Read the room. Damn.
Please keep up the good work.
Oi, don't make it sound like I had anything to do with this. Ugh. So, needless to say, Wei Ying doesn't make it to Carb Tower. He hightails it back to the burial mounds as soon as he's able, and Jin Zixuan is left to haul Jin Zixuan's body back and tell the tale of the latest and greatest of the evil Yiling Patriarch's crimes. Didn't you say you knew what you were doing? Didn't you say you could keep it under control? Didn't you say there was absolutely no problem, that nothing would ever go wrong? Wei Wuxian's mind went blank. An unknown amount of time later, his eyes suddenly snapped open. What he saw was the pitch-black, domed ceiling of the demon-quelling cave. Both Wenqing and Wenning were inside the cavern with him. Wenning's pupils had returned to the whites of his eyes, signaling that he had broken free of his berserk state. He seemed to be in the middle of whispering something to Wenqing. When he saw Wei Wuxian open his eyes, he fell silent and knelt on the ground. Wenqing, whose eyes were red, also did not say a word. Wei Wuxian sat up. After a moment of silence, a sudden urge of rage and hatred welled up in him. He kicked Wenning in the chest, knocking him over. Startled, Wenqing shrank back and clenched her fist, but only lowered her head and pressed her lips together to keep them shut. "Who did you kill?" Wei Wuxian screamed. "Do you know who you killed?" Having endured the assault, Wenning crawled upright and kneeled once more, not daring to say a word. Wei Wuxian grabbed him by the collar and yanked him up high. "You could have killed anyone," he roared. "Why did you have to kill Jin Zixuan?" Wenqing watched from the side, shedding tears of sorrow and panic. She desperately wanted to step forward and protect her little brother, but forced herself to hold. "What is Shijie supposed to do now that you've killed him?" Wei Wuxian demanded. "What's Shijie's son supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do?" His roars resonated through the demon-quelling cave and echoed outside. Wei Wuxian's heart sank further and further into despair. "Why in the world did I have to strand myself at the burial mounds for all these years?" he asked himself. "Why must I be subjected to all of this? Why did I have to go down this path in the first place? Why must I do this to myself? How does everyone else see me? What exactly have I gotten out of any of this? Am I crazy? Am I crazy? Am I crazy?" If only he had never chosen this path to begin with. I hate this book. This sucks. I'm sad. And Wei Ying's day just keeps getting worse. He's spiraling so hard that Wenqing easily sticks him with one of her needles. The paralytic will keep him there for 3 days, which is long enough for her. She tells him her plan. She and Wenning will travel to Carp Tower and turn themselves in to answer for the death of Jin Zixuan. They're going to die.
Or to die again.
Literally not the time. Also, technically wrong because Wenning survives in prison for like the next 13 years. Anyway, for all they know, they're right. Wenqing and Wenning are marching off to their dooms. Their reasoning is that they feel like this is inevitable. They've been on borrowed time for a while now. They're grateful for everything Wei Ying has done and consider his debts long since paid. So they leave, and Wei Ying can't do anything to stop them. As she turns to Wei Ying the last time, Wenqing says the 2 phrases everyone must say: "I'm sorry," and "thank you." We don't get to see exactly what happens, but apparently Jin Zixuan antagonized Wenning again, and he ends up losing control and killing some people. And then he's thrown into the secret prison, while Wenqing gets burned at the stake. Oh my god. I have to mention, so when I was in Korea, there was some collaboration a brand was doing with the MDZS donghua, and I saw the poster in a subway, and it had a collage of a bunch of different scenes from the donghua, and one shot they chose was Wenqing being burned at the stake, which is so completely diabolical. Like, who did that? Wei Ying waits 3 days, and as soon as he can wiggle his toes, he's sprinting to Lanling. He knows he's way too late to save them, but he's hoping to find their ashes. He has to sneak in. And in his sneaking, he stumbles across 2 women kneeling in front of a stone tablet. It's Madame Jin and Jiang Yanli. Wei Ying has no idea what to do or say, but he knows he absolutely cannot face his sister right now. He's hiding, but then Madame Jin gets up to give Jiang Yanli a moment alone, and she spots him at the entrance. And then, of course, she's yelling and raising the alarms. Wei Ying turns and runs out of there, even though... Jiang Yanli is calling after him, trying to get him to stop. Oh my god, if only. If only Wei Ying had stopped and talked to her that day, but he doesn't. And I'm so sad. The people who say they wish they could read Modao for the first time again are actually crazy. I don't. And this is probably the 10th time I've gone through this arc, and it still gets me. I took Modao 4 on vacation with me to read, and I had to put the book down to make sure I didn't have a total crash out in a cafe. Y'all, I'm barely okay scripting this part, and it'll be the same when I have to record this.
This system can confirm that host has taken frequent breaks while editing as well.
And we haven't even got to the worst part of this one. Okay, let's keep going. Outside again, Wei Ying stumbles across some Jin cultivators talking shit about all the dirty Wen dogs they'll have to put down, about how they've finally turned the ghost general to ash, and the Yiling patriarch will be next. One of them is talking all big like, oh, Wei Wuxian better watch his back, if I ever see him, I'll... And then Wei Ying's coming out of the bushes like, you'll what? You'll fucking what? And another senseless slaughter of cultivators is added to Wei Ying's rap. There's going to be a pledge rally in the ruins of the Wang clan's Nightless City, where leaders from pretty much all the sects will decide what to do about the demon patriarch of Yiling. Naturally, Wei Ying decides to crash it. I gotta emphasize that this is his rock bottom. He really feels like he has nothing else to lose.
And yet, he is wrong.
He argues with them for a while, but it's all the same tired arguments. It doesn't matter that Wei Ying was attacked first. It doesn't matter that there's no proof he cursed Jin Zixin. And it doesn't matter that Jin Guangshan said that as long as the Wen siblings turn themselves in, the rest would be spared. It doesn't matter. Some guy goes off about how shameful Wei Ying is, how this guy supported Wei Ying during the Sunshot campaign, so how dare he? And Wei Ying just laughs in his face. Oh, he admired him? Sure. All these people care about is destroying their enemies. Once one is gone, they move on to the next. Wei Ying was just the next in line. And then an arrow hits Wei Ying. He pulls it out of his shoulder and flings it back, killing the shooter. How dare he? There goes Wei Ying killing senselessly again. It doesn't matter that there was a sneak attack. It never matters. And then the fighting starts. 3,000 cultivators versus Wei Wuxian. The whole thing is chaos, and it's no wonder that this night goes down in history as the massacre at Nightless City. Lan Zhan is there trying to get Wei Ying's attention. Jiang Cheng is there trying to give Wei Ying a piece of his mind and his sword, but Wei Ying doesn't care. But then, one voice cuts through everything. Jiang Yanli is here. It's too dangerous. Both Wei Ying and Jiang Cheng fight through the crowd towards her. And then it happens. A corpse, swinging wildly, slashes her across the back and she falls. Her brothers get there then. Jiang Cheng yells at him. Why did he do that? Why didn't he stop it? Wei Ying is supposed to control these things, and Wei Ying doesn't know why either. He wanted it to stop, but it didn't obey him. Weird. It's almost as if a certain future sect leader and a certain shady guest disciple have been working on replicating the Yin Tiger Tally. Corpses obey commands in a sort of first come, first served, after all. But at least all three siblings are here together. Yanli is injured and bleeding, but she has to scold Wei Ying. He ran away so fast last time, and she wasn't able to say anything or even see his face. She asks, begs him, Xian, please stop. You have to stop. And Wei Ying promises he'll stop. He plays a melody to stop the corpses, but they don't listen. The corpses aren't stopping. And then the worst fucking thing in this entire series happens. Someone charges at Wei Ying with his sword, and Jiang Yanli pushes him out of the way. The sword goes straight through her throat. She's dead before she can even hit the ground. People are shouting, everything is chaos, but Wei Ying can't hear any of it. All he sees is red, staining the kindest woman in the world. And for the first time since the Sunshot campaign, Wei Ying pulls out both halves of the Yin Tiger Tally and snaps them together.
Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Important things must be said 3 times. Mission, Jin Ling's, oops.
No, stop! Don't say it, I'll cry.
This system understands. There.
I just need a little break. I think we all do. Let's just take a second. We can metaphorically hold hands and just take a nice, deep breath. No massacres here, just enough fluffy bunnies to bury a toddler in. You good? I'm good. Okay, let's keep going. Lucky for my mental health, the second half of Volume 4 is back in the real-time arc. Thank God. We pick up right where we left off, the so-called second siege of the burial mounds. Wei Wuxian can admit that there's some similarities. They are at the burial mounds, and they are all here for Wei Wuxian, but that's pretty much it. The kids are still defending him. Although the old cultivators are still just as unrelenting. One of them shouts that even if Wei Wuxian died 3,000 deaths, he still couldn't pay back his blood debt. Like, come on! Wei Wuxian got stronger, harder in the nick of time. Rise up from the dead, he does it all the time, but 3,000? Be reasonable. One guy seems to have a list of every terrible thing Wei Wuxian has ever been accused of. Wei Wuxian doesn't remember him, but it's Su Shi. His Moling Su clan has gotten way more established over the years, and it's made him arrogant. They argue long enough that a new wave of corpses has stumbled up the mountain, and that's when disaster strikes. With the exception of Wei Wuxian, Lan Wangji, and all the kids being held captive, all the cultivators suddenly lose their spiritual powers. Naturally, blame is immediately fired at Wei Wuxian, but he has bigger things to worry about. With everyone else being essentially crippled, Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji are going to have their work cut out for them, defending everyone. He shouts for everyone to retreat inside the demon quelling cave. The kids refuse because they want to help him fight, and the adults refuse because who knows what nefarious things will happen to them inside that evil lair. But then Nia Huaisang is there, and he's all too happy to run for cover, and people start following after that. Once the major sects start going in, the minor sects follow. The Moling Su clan is actually the last ones to go in. Once everyone is inside, Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian go in too. The cave has a protection array that Wei Wuxian activates. That should buy them a good amount of time. Everyone is safe again, so now it's time to discuss what happened with the spiritual powers. Wei Wuxian points out that at no point did he feed them poison or activate an array or even touch these people. So to just point at him without any further thought is just irresponsible. And there's a lot of grumbling, but they know he's right. First things first, healers examine people's cores. They conclude that they are undamaged by whatever is sealing them, and the condition is temporary. They should start to get their powers back in a few hours. Which is better than the alternative, but they do still have to deal with the army of corpses outside. Let's keep searching for the cause. Wei Wuxian urges everyone to think about their day so far. What happened before they got here? Did they eat or drink anything? How about when they were climbing the mountain? Did anything stand out? Once again, Su Shi starts complaining, trying to disparage everything Wei Wuxian says. It gets annoying. Lan Wangji hits him with the Lan silencing spell, and as a former Gusu Lan cultivator himself, Su Shi is already familiar. Some of the Moling Su disciples try to raise a stink, but Lan Qiren also has the ability to remove the spell, and he isn't. Su Shi is being annoying. What can I say? A little too annoying. Wei Wuxian points out weird behavior. When the corpses first appeared, Su Shi was the one shouting that everyone who lost their spiritual powers should pass up on a chance of survival and just rush to their deaths. And now, he'd been hell-bent on keeping Wei Wuxian from speaking. Wei Wuxian senses tension and asks about Moling Su clan's relationship with Gusu Lan. Lan Jingyi is all too happy to spill everything. How they split from Gusu Lan, how all of their secret clan techniques were just repackaged versions of Gusu Lan techniques, how their sect leader is still as obsessed with copying and beating Lan Wangji as he was in his youth. Hearing that, Su Shi gets so mad that he breaks out of the silencing spell by force, which means he just rips the skin of his lips off. Ugh. And now, even the normally level-headed Lan disciples are getting heated. Clearly, this turf war has been going on for a while. Someone's like, Moling Su is so arrogant, but they've been playing their melodies wrong all day. And there it is. The other sects wouldn't know exactly how the secret technique melodies were meant to sound. The Lan disciples would know, but their opinion of Moling Su was already so low. They passed the wrong notes off as simple incompetence. But what if they were actually doing the same thing Jin Guangyao did to Ning Mingjue? Jin Guangyao did do the most to help Su Shi establish his sect in the first place, so... Su Shi denies it, so Wei Wuxian challenges him. Let's test his meridians, see if his powers are still sealed like the rest of you. And then, the cherry on top, Wei Wuxian bluffs with the musical notations they still have from the last volume, and name drops the collection of spiritual turmoil songbook, and the jig is up. Now, I do want to note that none of the disciples he brought from Moling Su seem to be in on it. They all lost their spiritual powers too. They probably didn't even know they were playing the songs wrong. Su Shi does indeed still have his powers. He pulls out a familiar transport talisman and dips, but not before breaking the protection array with his blood. Well, we finally know who the shrouded gravedigger was. It makes sense now why he was so familiar with the Lan sword techniques, but Lan Wangji didn't recognize him. The bad news is that the door isn't going to hold for much longer, and there's still so much time before spiritual powers are coming back. Okay, so everyone seems pretty sure that they're all about to die. Sect heads are grabbing the kids they came here to rescue and giving them "you must live for me" speeches. Zheng Cheng even shoves Zhidian into Jin Ling's hand, just like Madame Yu did all those years. Nope, actually, I changed my mind. I don't want to talk about that. Jin Ling shoves the ring back at him anyways. They may not have spiritual energy, but they still have swords, and the kids aren't giving up, and the adults can't let themselves be outdone by the youth, so bring it on. And with the Wang Xian duo and Wen Ning, they've got a pretty good chance, all things considered. It's a little harrowing and incredibly exhausting, but they do manage to kill all the corpses.
Seems a little anticlimactic.
Well, you didn't let me finish. They've defeated all of them, that is, until yet another wave shows up. And oh, come on, this is just getting silly. They got through that last wave through sheer will, but that adrenaline is gone. They are so screwed. Or are they? Wei Wuxian does come up with a plan. It's just stupid and reckless, but what's new? He's got his outer robe off and is drawing a spirit attraction flag onto his inner robes with blood. That should be enough to get all the corpses' attention. If he stands in a strategic spot, he and Lan Wangji can shove the corpses into the blood pool. The elders have all gone pretty quiet at this point. They still don't really like Wei Wuxian, but whatever plan gets them out of here alive and doesn't need them to keep fighting, they're gonna go with. Some of the kids want to help Wei Wuxian and paint on themselves too, but Wei Wuxian doesn't let them. Just like in Yi City, he's touched by the sentiment, but doesn't want them in danger. Plus, he won't ever be alone with Lan Wangji around. Wei Wuxian doesn't even have to ask. Han Guojun is down for anything. Wen Ning too. The corpses are coming in now. All's going according to plan, and all of them are aggroed onto Wei Wuxian. He starts kiting them around the back of the cave. The other cultivators start getting out. The junior quartet want to stay and fight, but Wei Wuxian has Wen Ning get them out. Safely outside, they can watch the fight. It's taking a while. There are a lot of corpses and only 3 of them fighting, but they are thinning them out. Oh my god, so I have to mention, in the book, MXTX describes the dirt and blood staining their robes, but they go a step further than that in the Donghua. In the Donghua, Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji emerge from the demon quelling cave with their clothes completely dyed red, down to even Lan Wangji's forehead ribbon. If you don't know, in Chinese tradition, red is a very auspicious color. It's also the traditional wedding color. I remember when season 3 dropped and people fucking died. The Donghua team got around censorship to give Wang Xian wedding robes. The Donghua team also put out a lot of merch for the last season, and that included a jigsaw puzzle with the shot from this scene. As a huge puzzle enjoyer, I really wanted that puzzle, but I couldn't find it anywhere at a reasonable price. Oh well. Maybe one day. Anyways, eventually, Wei Wuxian runs out of talismans. He doesn't have his sword, and one corpse slips through his defenses. However, it's dead before it can strike him. Okay, to explain this, I will jump back into the flashback arc for a second. So, during the first siege of the burial mounds, Wei Wuxian knew he was gonna die. I mean, he died from the backlash of destroying half the Yin Tiger Tally, so yeah, he knew it was coming. But it wasn't just him. He knew as soon as he was dead, there would be no one to stop them from slaughtering the Wen remnants. It's a big bummer. He did manage to hide little Ayuan in a tree before the cultivators arrived, but he doesn't know what happened after that. Well, it turns out most of it is exactly what Wei Wuxian expected. The Wen remnants were slaughtered that night, and since they were considered war criminals, they weren't given proper rites of burials. In fact, all their bodies were unceremoniously dropped into the blood pool where they had been up until that very moment the corpse made to strike Wei Wuxian. Before it can reach him, it's cleft in twain. They rise out of the blood pool. Granny, fourth uncle, 50 of them dyed blood red, and stewing in all that resentment in the blood pool for so long made them powerful. And they remember which side they're fighting for. Another hour later, and all the hostile corpses have been defeated. The Wen remnant stand in front of Wei Wuxian. I do have to note that none of them are toddler-shaped. Wei Wuxian's choking up as he can finally thank them and say goodbye, properly. He bows, and a lot of them bow back. And then, like their souls suddenly ascended, the red corpses collapse and turn to dust. My poor baby Wenning. As soon as he sees this, he drops to his knees and collects as many of the ashes as he can. Lan Sijue and Lan Jingyi go to help him, giving him some pouches.
Be wary of corpse poison.
Wen Ning noticed a lot during that fight. A lot of weird attention that the Wen corpses paid to Lan Sijue in particular. But we'll come back to that in just a second. Now that the dust has settled again, some assholes get their audacity back and start their tired, self-righteous finger wagging again. And Wei Wuxian crashes out. Valid, honestly. He's way nicer than I would have been. Look, no one's asking them to forgive Wei Wuxian. No one's asking them to forget what he did. Hell, Wei Wuxian couldn't forget everything he's done even if he wanted to. Oh, your brother, your father, or whoever died? That's terrible. Wei Wuxian understands. He understands more than anyone. His birth family is all dead. His adopted family is dead. His found family is dead. All of these people just watched his found family die a second time, for fuck's sake. Is that not atonement enough? Wei Wuxian himself had been ripped apart paying for his crimes. So please, someone tell us, what more could you possibly want from him? Yeah, there's some heavy awkward silence after that one. But then it's Nie Huaisong to the rescue again. It's actually so funny. He pops out like, oh good, they're gone, but maybe we should all leave the burial mounds before more show up, which is objectively a good call, but most people's reactions are just, damn, this guy's still here? I would say I feel bad for Nie Huaisong, but I'd be lying. He knows what he's doing. It's been long enough that spiritual powers are starting to come back, but only about 10 or 15%. Since it's close by, Zhang Cheng, through the most gritted teeth, offers to let people rest and recover in Lotus Pier. They take boats. Going up the river, Wei Wuxian and Zhang Cheng once floated down, bound by Zidian.
This system thinks host comment was unnecessary.
Hey, what can I say? We finally got to the fluffy section of this volume. I just wanted to throw one last knife, just for fun.
Whatever makes host happy.
There's an unspoken rule that when Zhang Cheng invited everyone to Lotus Pier, it didn't extend to Wei Wuxian. However, Wei Wuxian is Wei Wuxian. It doesn't matter, spoken, unspoken, carved into a mountain, Wei Wuxian is gonna break the rules. He invites himself along, and the other sect heads can't even reject him because him and Lan Wangji had the biggest insights for solving who's behind all of this. Whoever tricked them all was using the Yin Tiger Tally, and who better to fight against it than the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation himself? They have an easier time letting Lan Wangji come along, although there are still some rumors about Han Guanjun being corrupted or enthralled. Lan Wangji, of course, is just like, I'll tell you something about my good name. It's mine alone to disgrace. I don't cater to all these vipers dressed in empath's clothing.
Sing it.
And just to interrupt for a second, a Wang Xian animatic for Taylor Swift, But Daddy I Love Him would go so hard. It's perfect for them. It's just Lan Wangji talking to Lan Qiren and the Lan elders, and then Wei Wuxian jumps in like, I'm having his baby! No, I'm not, but you should see your faces. This has to exist, right? Anyways, onto the boats. They had to rent pretty much every boat available in Yiling to get everyone on. Most of the juniors are crammed onto a single fishing boat. Poor baby Sijue is having such a hard time. Gusu has tons of rivers, but Lan Sijue has always gotten seasick really easily and avoids them. So he's leaning over the railing, looking very green. Which is where he gets jump scared by Wen Ning hanging onto the side of the boat. And we get to continue that conversation from earlier. He snuck onto the junior's boat because Zhang Cheng would flip his shit before letting Wen Ning into Lotus Pier. He's barely tolerating Wei Wuxian coming back. But Wen Ning really needs to know. After the Wen remnants noticed, Wen Ning started to notice too. He looked very familiar and is just about the right age. He asks for his name. Lan Yuan, courtesy name Lan Sijue. Lan Yuan. Sijue means to remember and long for. Han Guanjun named him. Han Guanjun had been the one raising him for as long as he could remember. Lan Sijue says that he was orphaned, but he got sick and can't remember anything from before the cloud recesses. But that doesn't matter because he's here. Wen Ning would be crying if his tear duct still worked. Wen Ning tells him that he reminds him of a relative and asks if he can call him Yuan. And Sijue, equal parts kind and curious about the ghost general, agrees.
Mission, now all that's missing is the little one. Activated.
Jin Ling gets a little huffy then, and Wen Ning talks to him too. He calls him Jin Rulan, which catches Jin Ling off guard because hardly anyone calls him by his courtesy name. Poor Jin Ling is just confused, so he goes with his default coping mechanism and jumps straight to anger. He doesn't know how people can be so chill with a ghost general. He's a fierce corpse. He killed his dad. Lan Sijue tries to get him to calm down, and Jin Ling shoves him away. Because of the seasickness, Sijue was already off balance and nearly falls off the boat. This starts a whole different argument. Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji were riding in the closest boat. At the sound of all that yelling, Wei Wuxian paused and then rushed outside the cabin to look at the neighboring vessel. He immediately spotted Jin Ling in a face-off with the others and called over to them. "What's going on?" The sight of the two of them always made Lan Sijue feel like even the most difficult situations could be resolved. "Han Wenjun, Senior Wei!" he shouted to them, overjoyed. "Come over quick!" Lan Wangji wrapped his arm around Wei Wuxian's waist and brought them onto Bichen. The pair rowed the sword across to land on the other fishing boat. Wei Wuxian teetered a bit, but Lan Wangji held him steady. Once he was settled, Wei Wuxian asked, "Wen Ning, what's going on? Didn't you say you were just going to take a gander?" "I'm sorry, Gongsu," Wen Ning said. "It's my fault. I couldn't hold back." Jin Ling pointed at him with his sword. "Drop the act!" he roared furiously. "Jin Ling," Wei Wuxian said, "put your sword down first." "No, I won't," Jin Ling said. Wei Wuxian was about to say more, but Jin Ling unexpectedly burst into tears. Everyone was stunned, speechless. Wei Wuxian took a step towards him, bewildered. What's wrong?" Even as tears streamed down Jin Ling's face, his voice was loud and furious between sobs. "This is my dad's sword. I'm not putting it down." He hugged Jin Zixuan's sword, Shuiha, tight to his chest. That sword was the one and only thing his parents had left him. The sight of Jin Ling wailing aloud in front of an audience evoked something in Wei Wuxian's memory. It was almost as if he was looking at a heartbroken Jiang Yanli, weeping profusely. Some young men of Jin Ling's age were already married, while some who were only slightly older even had children. To them, crying was a humiliating act. One could only imagine how aggrieved Jin Ling was to stand there and cry for all to see. Wei Wuxian was momentarily at a loss. He looked pleadingly at Lan Wangji, as if wanting to ask him for help. But Lan Wangji was even less likely to have an answer. A voice suddenly rang out across the river just then. Ling. So now Jiang Cheng is jumping into the fray, which we all know means things are about to get messy. But then Wei Wuxian collapses. It's a combination of Mo Zhuanyu's weak body, the curse mark on his leg, the exhaustion from fighting for the better part of the afternoon, and the fact that he still hasn't fully recovered from being stabbed.
Also, he's lying.
Shh, that's a secret. But at least it gets everyone to stop fighting for a while. Jiang Cheng flies away with Jin Ling, and the kids go back to hanging out. Lan Wangji carries Wei Wuxian into the inner cabin on the boat to rest. Oh my god, it's actually so funny. So, the quartet, minus Jin Ling, follow Han Guanjun into the cabin. They want to make sure that Senior Wei is alright, but then Han Guanjun isn't paying attention to them at all. And they can hear Wei Wuxian calling out to him in his sleep. And then they all collectively notice Wen Ning not entering the cabin, and they decide it's better to give them some privacy.
Good call.
Once they're alone, Lan Wangji gets up and locks the door. Wei Wuxian decides to wake up then. Wei Wuxian's monologue is so cute here. He was tired, sure, but not enough to pass out cold. He had only stumbled a bit. It's just that Lan Wangji scooped him up so quickly, and Wei Wuxian is just a guy, okay? Who wouldn't want to be carried around by Han Guanjun? Honestly, he's kind of wishing he stayed asleep so he could lay on Lan Wangji's lap the whole way to Lotus Pier. Oh well. They get to Lotus Pier a little bit before dawn, when Ning can't enter, so he tells Wei Wuxian that he'll be waiting outside. Lan Sijue volunteers to keep him company. These two have been chatting on the boat, and Lan Sijue wants to continue talking. Besides, as a junior, he wouldn't be let into any of the important meetings anyway. Zheng Cheng leads everyone to the banquet hall for a meal, but then he's called away. Something about non-cultivators requesting to talk to him. It takes a while for him to come back, and when he does, he's not alone.
Warning for multiple acts of non-consent, necrophilia, mentions of incest, and the death of a child. This system advises listener to, as host would say, lock in.
Sect leader Jiang comes back with two women and orders them to tell their stories to the group. The first is Sisi. She tells a story from about 11 years ago. She used to be a working girl. Pretty popular too. But then one of her clients' wives hired a gang to slash up her face. And then she had to start covering her scars and taking shadier jobs, which is how she got hired for this one. There were about 20 of them, and all the ladies were either older or scarred like her. But the pay was really good and in advance. Plus, she had done services for eccentrics before, so it wasn't that weird. Oh, if only she could have known. She describes being led into a giant house to a man. He looked to be in his 30s or 40s, but he was sick. So sick that he could only move his eyes and look at them from where he was lying on the bed. She's telling the story and something starts clicking around the room. Wait, 11 years ago? Wasn't that right around the time Jing Guangyao ascended to sect leader? When Jing Guangshan died?
Correct.
Sisi describes another man coming out from behind the curtain in the room. Father, I've brought the women you love so much. There are so many of them. Aren't you happy? Jing Guangyao hired them to service his father. It had been announced back then that Jing Guangshan had passed away during intercourse. His man-whore reputation, combined with how undignified his cause of death was, no one wanted to look into it. And then Madame Jin, who had been depressed for years following the death of her son, passed away too. They said it was the shock and disappointment that her husband remained unfaithful, even to his death, that finally did her in. And so, seriously, no one wanted to think about Jing Guangshan at all. But now we all have to know, and it's not pleasant. Ugh, I feel so bad for Sisi and the other girls. Jing Guangyao ordered them onto the bed, and they had to service Jing Guangshan. They weren't allowed to stop until Jing Guangyao said. And, spoilers, it was a while after the guy had died. Afterwards, the girls were all killed. They had just witnessed the murder of a sect leader, after all. Sisi thought she would die too, but she begged, and it actually worked. Instead of dying, she was led to a house and locked away for 11 years. She doesn't know exactly who saved her, but she was only in Lotus Pier today because her mysterious savior decided today was the day she needed to share her story. God damn, if I was in the room hearing this, I would have no fucking clue what to do with that information. Anyways, let's hear what the other woman has to say. Her name is Bikao, and some of the sect leaders in the room actually recognize her because she used to be the madam of the Laoling Qin clan's handmaid. Her tale is from 13 years ago. Madam Qin's daughter, Qin Su, had just been announced as Jing Guangyao's fiancée, and the madam wasn't happy about it. Bikao had served Madam Qin for many years and got worried about her mood. The wedding date was getting closer when one night, Madam Qin had Bikao sneak out to Lanling with her to meet with Jing Guangyao. Bikao was keeping watch and didn't hear the conversation, but she knows the madam was trying to stop the wedding. Then, a few days later, when the wedding invitations arrived, Madam Qin collapsed and became sick. It wasn't until after she was close to death that she told Bikao everything. Decades ago, Jing Guangshan visited the Yaoling Qin sect, got drunk, and assaulted Madam Qin. And then Qin Su was born. Jing Guangyao and Qin Su were half-siblings, and Jing Guangyao knew it, but married her anyways. The cultivators in the room collectively remembered that Jing Guangyao and Qin Su had a son who died in infancy. They can come to their own conclusions about that. Wei Wuxian wasn't as shocked because of the night in the secret room in Carp Tower. Bikao confirms that she was the one who wrote Qin Su the letter. And then the cultivators in the room collectively figure out the motives behind Qin Su's suicide. And this is where the shit show starts. It's crazy how fast these people turn on Jing Guangyao. All of a sudden, it's, I've never trusted that bastard, and for good reason, and that ungrateful maniac. And Wei Wuxian's just observing the outrage. This is probably exactly how every meeting to discuss the evil Ling patriarch went too. These people are so fickle. Once the hate train starts going, it's not going to stop. People start bringing up everything. Jin Guangyao sponsoring Xue Yang and bailing him out after the Chang clan massacre. Jin Guangyao colluding with Jin Zixun right before Jin Zixuan's death. All the time Jin Guangyao spent as Wen Rohan's right-hand man during the Sunshot campaign. Even the rumors of Mo Zhuanyu harassing Jin Guangyao get discussed as yet another example of Jin Guangyao's manipulation and lust for power. And then, all of a sudden, people are turning to Wei Wuxian like, Master Wei knows the most about the Yin Tiger Tally, so we're counting on him to beat it. We'll support you just like we did in the Sunshot campaign. It's so frustrating how fast and easy the change is, especially because only a few hours ago, these same people were saying that he needed to die 3,000 more times to atone. What a bitter feeling. Wei Wuxian grabs Lan Wangji and they sneak out of the hall. Leave these people to their own echo chamber. It's not like Wei Wuxian has ever been able to sway them. Alright, we finally made it to the fluffy part of this volume!
This system recalls that host already made that statement.
Well, it was true then, and it's even more true now.
Please enlighten this system on the fluffy aspect of death by
Stop, I get it, okay. Ugh. Forget about all of that. This part is actually nice and sweet, I promise. Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian left the hall without eating, so Wei Wuxian leads them to the food stalls that set up on the docks. Wei Wuxian tells Lan Wangji that he wants to treat him, but Lan Wangji pays anyway, just like that time in Yiling back then. Oh, it's really cute. Wei Wuxian shows Lan Wangji all around Lotus Pier, telling him stories of the trouble he used to get into. The stall owners back then all knew his face and his penchant for stealing, so they all just started sending tabs back to Jiangfang Min every month. He shows him where he used to take fruit from trees or carve graffiti into fences. Wei Wuxian brings Lan Wangji to the tree he fell out of, his first night in Lotus Pier. He climbs back up the tree. Back then, it felt so much taller. The drop looked so much scarier. And when he fell that time, he never blamed Jiang Yanli for not catching him. It was relatively high, and his sister was only 12. Looking down now, all Wei Wuxian sees is Lan Wangji. I wonder what would happen if... Wei Wuxian thinks, if he catches me, I'll... and jumps out without warning. There's a whoosh of robes, and he's wrapped in Lan Wangji's arms. Wei Ying, Lan Zhan. If he catches him, you'll what? You'll what, Wei Ying? Kiss him? Marry him? Have his children? Stare into each other's eyes until you get too embarrassed? Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh well. Wei Wuxian has one last place he wants to show Lan Wangji. He brings him to the Jiang clan ancestral hall. As a disciple, he had to come here all the time and kneel and reflect as punishment. Although, it looks a little different from his memories because of the rebuild. That and all the new tablets. Wei Wuxian lights some incense and kneels in front of Madame Yu and Uncle Jiang. Lan Wangji kneels beside him. Together, they bow twice. In his head, Wei Wuxian prays to the heavens to accept these as their first 2 wedding vows. There are 3 wedding vows. First, to worship the heavens and earth. Second, to honor their parents. And third, to respect each other. Now, they're only missing 1. But then there's Jiang Cheng. He's like, you've got some nerve coming here, Wei Wuxian. Jiang Cheng tries to play it off like he'd just caught them here, but he'd actually been following them for some time. He had noticed that they weren't eating with the rest of them and gone out to search. Jiang Cheng knew exactly where Wei Wuxian's favorite food stands were. He knew exactly where Wei Wuxian used to cause the most trouble. And he knew exactly where he was going when a vendor pointed out which direction they were headed. Jiang Cheng watched the scene at the tree, but even Wang Xian's biggest hater couldn't bring himself to interrupt. There's a whole lot of complicated feelings here. Jiang Cheng had spent the last 13 years hating Wei Wuxian, hating him for the death of his parents, hating him for not saving Jiang Yanli, hating him for dying and leaving Jiang Cheng alone. Wei Wuxian was supposed to be the one who stayed. Jiang Cheng was supposed to be the sect leader, and Wei Wuxian was going to be his right-hand man. They had planned for it. They had promised each other. But Wei Wuxian died and left him like everybody else did, and Jiang Cheng was left to pick up the pieces. So he hated him. Anger was like the last thing he had connecting him to Wei Wuxian, so he stayed angry. He rounded up and beat anyone trying to do what Wei Wuxian did. But then, all of a sudden, Wei Wuxian was back, and Jiang Cheng was still angry. Wei Wuxian was moving on, acting carefree and shamelessly hanging from Han Guangju's sleeves. Oh, and don't even get him started on Lan Wangji. That smug bastard had been pissing him off for decades. Lan Wangji always knew how to piss Jiang Cheng off, but because of his oh-so-perfect reputation and the fact that he was cold and quiet, no one else seemed to see it, which made Jiang Cheng look crazy, which pissed him off even more. And so, Jiang Cheng, just like he had accidentally taught his nephew to do, copes by starting a fight. How dare Wei Wuxian show his face to his parents, and with Lan Wangji no less. Did they forget that Madame Yu and Zheng Fangmian were killed as a result of Wei Wuxian needing to save Lan Wangji? Look, Jiang Cheng's going through a lot, but that doesn't excuse it. I just really think he's a great example of hurt people hurt people. And Wei Wuxian can take it. He's pretty used to it. But Jiang Cheng goes too far when he brings Lan Wangji into it. He says something homophobic to attack Lan Wangji's honor, and Wei Wuxian snaps back like, take it back. And Jiang Cheng's like, oh, of course you defend him. Y'all, it starts going really bad. Wei Wuxian hits Jiang Cheng with a talisman, and Jiang Cheng pulls out Zidian. His spiritual energy isn't fully back yet, but he has enough for this. But before they can actually start brawling, Wei Wuxian suddenly remembers where he is. He had just prayed to Madame Yu. He can't hit her son in front of her now. Jiang Cheng is on a different page. He strikes with Zidian and it's intercepted by Bichen. And then Jiang Cheng's yelling that he'd fight both of them. He doesn't give a shit. And everything catches up to Wei Gang. He coughs up a mouthful of blood and collapses into Lan Wangji's arms for real this time. Jiang Cheng's still mad, but Lan Wangji has been completely doused. The only thing that matters to him is taking care of Wei Wuxian. Jiang Cheng follows them outside, and it's Wen Ning who steps between them this time. Wei Wuxian is bleeding from his 7 orifices and is barely conscious enough to whisper to Lan Wangji to take him away. Jiang Cheng tries to stop them, but then Wen Ning pulls out the big guns. Wen Ning has Sui Bian with him. And isn't that strange? Why doesn't Wei Wuxian ever carry his sword?
4.
In fact, he hasn't carried a sword since the burning of Lotus Pier. Even stranger, right? That was in the middle of war. And soon after that, Wei Wuxian started learning demonic cultivation, which totally put a target on his back. You would think he'd have more reason to keep his sword close by. But then again, what was it he said to Lan Wangji back then? Demonic cultivation was his only path forward. Wen Ning thrusts Sui Bian towards Jiang Cheng and dares him to pull it out. Wen Ning knows everything. He was there. He tells Jiang Cheng that no one knows where Baoshan Sanran's mountain is. How no immortal found Jiang Cheng stumbling up that mountain blindfolded. No, that was Wen Qing and Wen Ning and Wei Wuxian. So pull out the sword.
3, 2, 1.
Everyone's heard that Sui Bian sealed itself when Wei Wuxian died 13 years ago, but it was actually longer than that. Wei Wuxian stopped carrying his sword because he knew that if anyone saw, they would know immediately that he had no spiritual energy. Wei Wuxian had no golden core. Jiang Cheng can pull the sword out because it recognizes him as its owner. It recognizes his golden core. Back then, when Julio melted Jiang Cheng's core, he lost all hope. He gave up because his whole life's purpose revolved around being a great cultivator. Losing his core felt like he was losing all of that. Wei Wuxian had pledged his life and loyalty to the Yunmangjiang clan. So what was his golden core to him? Wen Qing had published a paper on a theoretical surgery to transplant a golden core from one person to another. Crazy enough, no one would volunteer to have it tested, so it was purely theoretical. That is, until Wei Wuxian came and begged her to give his core to his brother. Because it was untested, there was only a 50% chance of success, but Wei Wuxian saw it as a 50% chance he dies if he does it, and a 100% chance Jiang Cheng dies if he didn't. That's easy math. Wen Qing gathered as many anesthetics as she could get her hands on, but quickly discovered that any drug that numbed pain would also hinder her access to the core. They couldn't use any of it. That's fine too. Wei Wuxian could take it. And the work would take a long time. It was a very delicate process that involved the person the core was taken from to remain conscious the whole time. Wei Wuxian agreed to do it anyways, so for 3 days he endured. He felt every second of his core leaving his body, and Wen Ning stood close by the entire time. And it was just after that surgery, even before Zheng Cheng had woken up again, that Wei Wuxian had been captured by the Wens and tossed into the burial mounds. Zheng Cheng doesn't believe it, but Wen Ning doubles down. He dares him to put the sword back and then take it around. See if anyone else can pull the sword out, because they won't be able to. Only Zheng Cheng. Zheng Cheng does take the sword. He will test this theory, thank you very much, but deep down, he knows it's true. Doesn't keep him from kicking Wen Ning across the courtyard as he leaves, though.
This system would like to remind host of her earlier statement.
Alright, we finally made it to the fluffy part of this volume!
Does she still stand behind those words?
Yeah, weren't you paying attention? They gazed into each other's eyes under a tree, and then did 2/3 of their marriage vows. How is that not tooth-rotting fluff? Yeah, the golden core thing's kind of a lot, but you're gonna tell me that we didn't get fluff? Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh my gosh, how do y'all feel about the reveal? Ooh, I was not okay the first time I read that. There's one more thing that gets revealed in the next volume that makes this whole thing even sadder, but I'll save that for when we get there. Ugh, but I still love it. It's so tragic. All 3 of these siblings get absolutely doomed. The Donghua goes pretty hard on this scene, using all these like crazy visuals. I seriously wouldn't be surprised if that one sequence in the Modao Donghua got more budget than the entire Scum Villain Donghua.
Host is breaking the rules.
Yeah. Anyways. Lan Wenzhi loads Wei Wuxian onto a little canoe. Wen Ning goes with them. Wen Ning's like, hey, Han Guanjun, I wasn't supposed to tell anyone about that, so if you could keep it a secret. And Lan Wenzhi agrees. Wen Ning also gets to thank him for saving Ayuan. Lan Sidrui had grown up into a very respectable young man, and Wen Ning is just so happy. That's all he and Wen Qing and Granny and Fourth Uncle and all of them could have asked for.
Mission. Now all that's missing is the little one. Progress updating.
Wei Wuxian wakes up on Lan Wenzhi's lap in their little boat. He immediately throws up some blood. Lan Wenzhi holds him carefully, wiping his face and sending a steady stream of spiritual energy. Now that they finally have room to breathe, Wei Wuxian starts reflecting about everything that just went down. And granted, he has no idea about the whole golden core thing getting revealed, but Wei Wuxian still has a lot of big feelings. He got really upset when Zheng Cheng took shots at Lan Wenzhi. To him, Lan Wenzhi has always been lofty and untouchable, and Wei Wuxian genuinely sees himself as lesser than. Han Guanjun was elegant and righteous, and he was a shameless riffraff. That's always how it's been. And the feelings had been brewing for a while, but then Zheng Cheng just had to say them out loud like that all of a sudden, and there they were. Real, genuine feelings, raw and exposed, wiggling around on the dirt. Wei Wuxian looks up at Lan Wenzhi and feels like he can no longer read him. I can't stress enough that Wei Wuxian is totally freaking himself out here. He thinks that all his fantasies of a happy life with Lan Wenzhi are just daydreams and inside thoughts. Lan Wenzhi, of course, is completely on board, but has been counting on Wei Wuxian to carry on as he always has. He thought Wei Wuxian had noticed that Lan Wenzhi wasn't rejecting him like he did in their youth. But both these people suck at talking about their own feelings. And in Wei Wuxian's defense, he's had a hard time adjusting. Had the shiniest wheels, now they're rusted. He didn't know if he cared if he came back. He's got a lot of regrets about that. And so, of course, the subject is changed before a single word is said. They are headed to Yunping City. It's a town in Yunmeng. Wei Wuxian recalls seeing a land deed for a property in Yunping City in Jin Guangyao's secret artifact room. But he hadn't heard of the Jin sect leader spending a lot of time in Yunmeng, so it seemed suspicious. Plus, Jin Guangyao definitely heard what went down from Su Shi by now, and Lan Xichen was with him. Lan Wenzhi is worried about his brother. It's only around now that Wei Wuxian notices Wen Ning on the boat. Poor guy, eating all that Wangxun dog food. God, I love Wen Ning so much. He's such a third wheel. I think this is the best Wen Ning third wheel scene because, we had the first and second drunk scenes where Wei Wuxian was being petty and jealous and trying to get him to leave. I also count the Dafa mountain scene, even though he wasn't particularly conscious at the time. Wen Ning got to watch Wang Xin's shoujo-ass reunion scene. But this one's the best. Genuinely, because there's nothing else going on. No fighting cultivators, no juniors arguing over dinner, just watching your boss and his unofficial boyfriend making lovey-dovey eyes at each other. Wen Ning has just been awkwardly paddling the boat this whole time. Back in Lotus Pier, Wei Wuxian ate 3 pancakes in the market. Lan Wangji only had one. Plus, that was the first food they'd both had since the melons outside of Ling. Wei Wuxian is especially worried about Lan Wangji. So he redirects the boat for a little detour before Yunping City. Wei Wuxian grew up in these waters, so he knows there's a lake near here with a lot of lotus pods. Lan Wangji totally calls him out, but like in a nice way, casually bringing up, "Oh, hey, I heard all the ponds in Yumeng are privately owned, so to take a lotus pod, wouldn't that be stealing?" But Wei Wuxian, who definitely knows he's right, just goes, "I've never heard of that," and takes one anyway. But what he's not expecting is for Lan Wangji to hop on board. Lan Wangji picks a lotus pod and hands it to him like, "There will not be a next time." The great Han Guanjun stealing from a lonely farmer's lotus pond? Unheard of. Wei Wuxian is delighted, and soon their little boat is nearly overflowing with stolen, delicious lotus pods. Both Lan Wangji and Wen Ning, don't forget, Wen Ning is still there, are peeling them and handing them to Wei Wuxian. They munch and float for a few hours before reaching Yunping. Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian get off the boat, and some boys start bullying Wen Ning. It's so sad. "My poor baby ghost general!" The boys saw his black veins and were curious instead of scared. And because they are stinky little rascals, they start shaking the boat before Wen Ning can get off. And Wen Ning is so timid, like, "Please stop," before calling for Wei Wuxian to help him. Wei Wuxian throws them some leftover lotus pods and the boys leave. But all of this was a little too much for my sweet summer child, so Wen Ning goes to hide in the woods for a while. Jin Guanya's property in town turns out to be a Guanyin temple. Those are pretty rare to see in big cities. Typically, they're out in the woods or whatever. But the temple stewards assure that the temple is well maintained and only worships Guanyin. They walk around for a while. There's some sort of array sealing something in here. The array is pretty robust, so it must be something powerful. This isn't something they want to fight on a whim. Also, both of them could still use some more rest, so they decide to find an inn and come back later. It's only when the innkeeper is asking whether they want one room or two that those feelings and insecurities that Wei Wuxian shoved into a box in the corner come creeping back. Since he's come back as Mo Zhuanyu, Wei Wuxian has been acting extremely shameless when it came to their sleeping arrangements. And he was doing it on purpose. At first, he was trying to freak Lan Wangji out, keep him from finding out who he was, but it turns out Lan Wangji knew the whole time and didn't care about the shamelessness. In fact, Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian had shared a room pretty much every night since they first reunited, and Lan Wangji had never rejected him. Wei Wuxian just sort of got used to it. While they traveled, Lan Wangji had always asked for a single room, but he's hesitating now. So Wei Wuxian asks for a single room while glancing at Lan Wangji, who doesn't react at all, which I suppose is better than reacting poorly. But then Lan Wangji refused to share a bed with him. He insisted that Wei Wuxian take the bed to rest and Lan Wangji would meditate on a chair. So Wei Wuxian doesn't know what to think, but he really is very tired, so he does take a nap. Lan Wangji lets him sleep until dinner is delivered to the room. Wei Wuxian pours himself some wine. He wants to pour a second cup. As cliché as it is, he wants to ask Lan Wangji the big, "What are we?" But Wei Wuxian is afraid of being perceived. His logic is that if Lan Wangji is drunk, 1, he'll be more likely to answer, and 2, he probably won't remember once he sobers up. So if he does answer like Wei Wuxian fears, he can just pretend nothing happened. Wei Wuxian pours the second cup. He thinks if Lan Wangji takes it, he'll go forward with his plan. And if he doesn't, Wei Wuxian will just drop it. Lan Wangji drinks it without hesitation. Damn, he didn't even have to ask. Wei Wuxian is shocked, and Lan Wangji is asleep.
Welcome to the third drunk scene.
Wei Wuxian seriously cannot resist messing with Lan Wangji a bit. He plays with his face, squeezing his cheeks and pulling his mouth into a smile. Drunk Lan Wangji wakes up and bites his finger. So it begins. Wei Wuxian has a goal this time. He tries to suggest a game to play. Wei Wuxian will ask questions and Lan Wangji has to answer honestly. But Lan Wangji heard the word play and drags Wei Wuxian outside to play. Okay, this part is so freaking cute. It takes Wei Wuxian a minute to figure it out. Lan Wangji really had been paying attention to all the stories Wei Wuxian shared about the trouble he got into while he showed him around Lotus Pier. And now drunk Lan Wangji wants to try it too. But the thing is, all those stories were about a punk kid who liked to cause trouble. Not appropriate for grown-ass men, especially not high-ranking cultivators like Hangwon-jun. But I'm not gonna tell him, are you? Yeah, that's what I thought. Plus, it's cute! Lan Wonji steals some guy's chickens and hands them to Wei Wuxian, looking all proud of himself. And Wei Wuxian's just like, what the fuck? And then Lan Wonji takes Bichen, his honorable spirit sword, and uses it to carve "Lan Wonji was here" into the guy's fence. Theft and vandalism? Wei Wuxian catches on then, and is both delighted and horrified that Lan Wonji apparently wanted to do the things Wei Wuxian told him about. He carves his own name next to Lan Wonji's for the hell of it, and then vows to come scratch it out later. Hangwon-jun can't really be leaving graffiti all over the place. If you are curious, yes, both the chicken and the graffiti make it into the Untamed. They couldn't include a lot from this drunk scene because of where it ends up going. If you know, you know. But they got some of it. Wei Wuxian wrangles Lan Wonji back to the inn. The stewardess is pretty confused about the chickens, but what can you do? He orders them a bath. Back in the room, Lan Wonji wants Wei Wuxian to wash his face like he did back in the first drunk scene. And then he decides he needs Wei Wuxian's help bathing. Wei Wuxian, who still hasn't gotten to ask the questions he wanted, you know, the whole point of this drinking stunt, just starts going with it. His reasoning is that he already bathed with Lan Wonji back during the Gusu lectures in the cold pond, so this was no big deal, right? Right? You all agree, right? He's totally deluding himself when he agrees. And then Lan Wonji drags him into the bath with him. And this is not a big bathtub. It's barely a small bathtub. Wei Wuxian is straddling Lan Wonji, but he still tries to help him bathe, moving him about, scrubbing his back, rinsing his hair. And I've always said this. You can ask my roommates. The most intimate thing two people can do is wash each other's hair. And Wang Xin agrees with me because they start kissing after that. And then they start to do some other stuff. Okay, let's just say calligraphy. Let's have a lesson in calligraphy. It's a very fine art. It's important to keep a firm grip on the brush. And Lan Wonji's got a sizable brush, so you gotta keep your grip. And then you gotta make strokes with your brush. The brush strokes are important, especially when you want to finish your calligraphy. This is so ridiculous. I want to stop.
This system would also like host to stop.
Anyways, they break the bathtub, spilling water everywhere, and continue their activities on the bed. It doesn't go any further than calligraphy, but this is significant. But of course, there's still a whole other volume of this goddamn book. So they're laying there in post-calligraphy haze, and Wei Wuxian finally gathers the nerve to ask what he's been dying to say all night. He's like, hey, Lanjan, And then... this sucks. And then you can see the exact instant that Lan Wonji sobers up because he panics, throws himself off the bed, and frantically finds clothes to cover both of them up. So for Lan Wonji, who grew up with Mormon levels of repression, who's been literally dreaming, we'll see it later, about ravishing Wei Wuxian, thinks he lost control and did something unspeakable. But for Wei Wuxian, who at the beginning of all of this kept making excuses, just makes some more. Oh, I'll get him drunk so he won't remember my confession if it's a disaster. Oh, I'll just touch, I won't do anything else. And suddenly, he feels like he totally took advantage of Lan Wonji. And Lan Wonji's shock just about confirms it for him. These two awkwardly clean up and get dressed when the innkeeper comes by. Apparently, the room below them was experiencing some leaking. I wonder how that happened. She offers them a new room because she's very kind and they have money, and Wei Wuxian requests that they get 2 rooms this time. It's really awkward between our mains right now, y'all. Wei Wuxian can't sleep knowing Lan Wonji is only a wall away, so he jumps out the window. He needs a drink. Also, he figures he might as well scratch out the graffiti Lan Wonji made earlier. He runs into Wen Ning outside, and that's where the volume ends. All that's left, really, is the finale. Volume 5 also has the extra chapters for Modao, so that'll be fun. This one really is the hardest one to read. The end of the flashback arc is so awful. Yan Li breaks my heart every single goddamn time. Even the cover art for this volume is like a punch to the face. You think, oh, this is so sweet, seeing Wang Xian in a tree with soft expressions and softer bunnies, and then there's Zheng Cheng and Jiang Yan Li on the back with a little baby Jinling. But no, it's mostly angst, like the most gut-wrenching, hope-destroying rock bottom. But we did it! Yay! Okay, I need to lay down or something. My feelings hurt. Okay, I'll be back for the next one. Or better yet, I'll just stay right here, and then in a month, y'all can come back, and I'll probably be recovered enough. Probably.
There.
Yeah, okay. Bye.